The Electoral College is such an important thing, but it is one of the most misunderstood things throughout the country, and it is good if everybody can start to understand what it truly is.
So, why do we have the Electoral College? We have the Electoral College in our country in order to prevent a possible tyranny of the majority, and also stop democracy from overthrowing itself. The use of pure direct democracy could lead to the election of a demagogue, or a person who only wants to work for the majority rather than everyone else. Electors are chosen by that candidate's political party. When it comes to who wins the electors, most states have a winner-take-all scenario, except for 2 states, Maine and Nebraska, which go by congressional districts. The presidential election is held every 4 years on the Tuesday after the first Monday in November.
People think that they're voting for their president, but they're actually voting for the electors of their state. There are 270 votes required to win the presidency, and there are 538 electors total. The minimum that a number of electors a state can have is 3. The numbers that these are representing are the 435 nations representatives, the 100 senators, and the 3 electors that are given to the District of Columbia. Electors are chosen by voters, and they go to the state capitol to cast their 2 votes. After that, the electoral ballots are sent to the President of the Senate, and on January 6th, they are tallied with a joint session on Congress, and the winner is formally announced, even though we always end up finding out who the president is going to be the night after the voting occurs.
But if we strictly stuck with people's individual votes, places like Los Angeles, New York, Philadelphia, and Miami would pretty much choose who the president is because of their large populations and larger representation.
Electors can technically put their vote in for anyone, but most will stay true to their party. But some states do have laws that you can't do that.
Even though electors are selected by their party, they don't necessarily have to vote along party lines. This is called a faithless elector. A faithless elector is a member of the Electoral College that doesn't vote for the candidate that they pledged to vote for. Despite 157 acts of faithlessness as of 2015, they have yet to alter an election or any major election.
When electors do this, they are taking the risk of being kicked out of the party, and they are also taking the risk of having criminal penalties in some states. In 29 states, they do have laws with penalties to faithless electors, though they have never actually been enforced. And in states like Michigan and Minnesota, the faithless elector's vote is void and does not count. The Supreme Court ruling of faithless electors is a law that states have the right to remove electors who refuse to pledge to the prior election. Electors are selected with 2 common ways. They are either nominated by their state party committee, or they campaign for a spot and then they are elected at a state party convention.
You are voting for a member of the Electoral College who is expected to vote along party lines when you are voting for president. The only person a member can't be is a member of Congress, a high-ranking U.S. official who is in a position to be given higher office because of the election, or someone who has rebelled against the U.S.
So some people wonder why we even have the Electoral College. But without the Electoral College, a lot of the states' votes wouldn't actually truly matter. And a situation to kind of show this is if you think about if you were in school and you had a class of 30 kids and then you had a class of 5 kids voting for if they wanted to have class t-shirts or class hats, you are most likely gonna win whatever side you want from the bigger class, because even if all 5 in the one class voted for hats, but their votes are going to have a very little say, because if the other class had 23 people voting for t-shirts and 7 people voting for hats, the t-shirts are still going to win because of how many people overrule in that class and how many more votes they had put in. So this is kind of a representation of the big states that would be voting during an election, like California and Texas. They would all have a much bigger say in the election, and truly your vote might not even count if you're from a smaller state.
So an example with the Electoral College would be the class with 5 kids will elect 2 electors, and the class with 30 kids will elect 5 electors. So let's say all 5 kids in one class vote for hats, they get 2 electoral votes. And then in the second class, 23 people vote for the t-shirt, so they get 3 electoral votes, and 7 vote for hats. Then that means that hats would have 4 electoral votes, and t-shirts would have only 3 electoral votes, so hats would win. So now when the class votes, their votes will go towards the electors, and it's more proportionalized, and this way, it's more fair.
So as we all know, the 2016 election has just occurred, and it was between the candidates Hillary Clinton and between Donald Trump. And Donald Trump ended up winning with 290 electoral college votes, and Hillary Clinton ended up losing with only 232 electoral college votes. The electoral college was very important in this election because Hillary Clinton actually had won the popular vote beforehand, and people thought she had an easy win. So this shows that with the electoral college, it does change the situation and the outcomes that will happen. This type of situation also happened with Al Gore, who had won the popular vote but ended up losing the election in 2000. And I just think it shows that between this and between just doing the popular vote, it does make a difference between who will end up winning the election.
Now, if we didn't think this election could get any crazier, Jill Stein, a member of the Green Party, has just filed for a recount in 3 states. These 3 states are Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. There are 2 types of recounts, mandatory and optional. Mandatory recounts are required in some jurisdictions if there is an extremely small percentage of votes cast or a fixed number, and it's paid for by election officials for that state. An optional recount is where each jurisdiction is different. Some have recounts for any office, while others require victory by less than a certain percentage. The candidate must pay for it in both cases, but if the election result is reversed, state officials pay for it.
So I'd say that there is no better election than this one to really truly see how much the Electoral College can make a difference in the outcome.